My daughter screamed into the phone, "Mom, why are strangers emptying my bedroom?" I smiled, sitting in my new apartment, surrounded by women who actually wanted my company. "Sweetheart," I said calmly, "because it's not your bedroom anymore. I sold it." My name is Donna Mitchell, and I'm 72 years old. Before we get into this story, I'd love to know, where are you watching from today? Drop your city or state in the comments. I always wonder who's out there, listening to an old woman's tale of finally putting herself first. Now, let me take you back to where this all began. For 37 years, I lived in the same house on Maple Street. It was a beautiful 4-bedroom colonial with a wraparound porch, the kind of home you see in magazines about classic American living. My late husband Robert and I bought it when I was pregnant with our first child. We raised 3 kids in that house, Lauren, Michael, and Stephanie. Every room held memories. The kitchen where I taught them to bake, the living room where we opened Christmas presents, the backyard where Robert built them a treehouse that somehow never fell apart, even after all these years. When Robert passed away 6 years ago from a sudden heart attack, I thought my world had ended. We were supposed to grow old together, travel, finally do all those things we'd put off while raising kids and building careers. Instead, I was alone in that big house, rattling around like a ghost myself. But I told myself it was okay. I had my children. They'd come visit. We'd still have Sunday dinners. The house would still be filled with laughter and love, just differently than before. I was so incredibly naive. The first year after Robert died, they did come around. Lauren would stop by every couple of weeks. Michael would come for dinner once a month. Stephanie, who lived the closest, just 20 minutes away, would pop in occasionally. But I could see it in their eyes. Obligation. Duty. They were checking the box marked, "Visit Grieving Mother." By the second year, the visits became less frequent. Once a month became once every 2 months. Phone calls that used to be weekly became sporadic texts. "Busy with work, Mom. The kids have so many activities. We'll come by soon, promise." I understood, or at least I tried to. They had their own lives, their own families, their own struggles. Lauren was a real estate attorney with 2 teenage boys who played competitive soccer. Michael ran his own accounting firm and was always drowning in work during tax season, which seemed to last 9 months out of the year. Stephanie was a nurse working 12-hour shifts, raising a 10-year-old daughter alone after her divorce. But understanding didn't make the loneliness any easier to bear. I started calling more. Not excessively, I thought. Maybe once every few days, just to hear their voices, to feel connected to the family I'd spent my entire adult life building. I'd invite them over for dinner. "I'm making pot roast, your favorite. I baked those chocolate chip cookies you love. Please, it's been 3 months since I've seen the grandkids." That's when the complaints started. It was Stephanie who said it first. We were on the phone, and I'd asked when she might come visit. "Mom," she said, her voice tight with frustration, "you need to stop guilt-tripping us about visits. I work 60 hours a week. I'm exhausted. I can't drop everything every time you're feeling lonely." Guilt-tripping. That word hit me like a slap across the face. "I'm not trying to guilt-trip you," I said quietly. "I just miss you." "Well, it feels like guilt-tripping," she snapped. "Every time we talk, it's, 'When are you coming over?' or 'I haven't seen you in so long.' We have real lives, Mom, real responsibilities. We can't always put you first." I apologized. Of course I apologized. I told her I understood, that I'd try to be better about it. But after I hung up, I sat in that empty house and cried for 2 hours straight. A week later, I called Lauren to ask if she and her family wanted to come for Sunday dinner. I hadn't seen them in 6 weeks. Her response was almost identical to Stephanie's. "Mom, seriously, you have to stop this. We're not kids anymore living under your roof. We're adults with our own families. I know you're lonely, but you can't make us feel bad about living our lives." "I'm not trying to make you feel bad," I protested. "But you are," she insisted. "Every invitation feels like an accusation, like we're terrible children for not being there every second. Dad's been gone 6 years, Mom. At some point, you need to build your own life instead of waiting for us to fill the void." Those words cut deeper than anything Stephanie had said. Build my own life. As if the life I'd built, centered around my family, around being a mother and grandmother, somehow didn't count. Michael was gentler when he finally addressed it, but the message was the same. Mom, I love you, but you need to give us some space. We'll come visit when we can, but you calling and asking all the time makes us want to come less, not more. It's pressure, and none of us need more pressure in our lives. So I stopped. I stopped calling, except for birthdays and holidays. I stopped extending invitations. I stopped asking when I'd see the grandkids. I became exactly what they wanted, a mother who didn't inconvenience them with her loneliness. The house felt even emptier after that. I'd walk past their old bedrooms, preserved exactly as they'd left them. Lauren's room still had her high school volleyball trophies on the shelf. Michael's had his collection of baseball cards in protective sleeves. Stephanie's walls were still painted the purple she'd chosen when she was 14. I'd kept everything, thinking they'd want these pieces of their childhood, thinking their kids might want to stay over sometimes, to sleep in the same rooms their parents had grown up in. But months went by without a single visit, then nearly a year. I'd see their lives on Facebook, Lauren's boys at soccer tournaments, Michael at some charity golf event, Stephanie taking her daughter to the zoo, all these moments I wasn't part of, all these memories being made without me. I wasn't even hurt anymore, I was numb. And in that numbness, something shifted inside me. I looked around that big house one morning, really looked at it. 4 bedrooms for one person, a dining room table that seated 8 where I ate alone every night, a yard I paid someone to maintain because I couldn't do it myself anymore, thousands of dollars in property taxes, utilities, maintenance, insurance. For what? To preserve shrine bedrooms for children who'd made it clear they had real lives that didn't include their mother? That's when I called my former colleague, Patricia Chen, who'd become a real estate agent after retiring from teaching. We'd kept in touch over the years, meeting for coffee every few months. Patricia, I said, I want to sell my house. There was a pause. Are you sure, Donna? That's a big decision. I've never been more sure of anything. We listed it on a Thursday. By Saturday, I had 3 offers. The market in our area was hot, and a well-maintained 4-bedroom in a good school district, it was gone in a week. I accepted an offer $15,000 over asking price. I didn't tell my children, not when I listed it, not when I accepted the offer, not when I started packing. Why would I? They'd made it clear that what I did with my life was my business as long as I didn't bother them about it. I hired an estate sale company to handle most of the furniture. I kept only what would fit in a 1-bedroom apartment. The rest, all those carefully preserved memories, all that furniture I'd polished and protected for decades, went to strangers who actually wanted it. The bedrooms were packed up by professionals. Every trophy, every poster, every piece of childhood memorabilia went into labeled boxes that I had shipped to storage units. 1 unit for each kid, paid up for 6 months. They could decide what to do with it all. I found a beautiful senior living community called Riverside Gardens. It wasn't a nursing home. I didn't need that. It was independent living for active seniors. 1-bedroom apartments, a community center, activities, a dining room where I could eat with other people instead of alone. The woman who gave me the tour, Marie, was about my age and had the warmest smile. You'll love it here, she said. We have book clubs, painting classes, day trips. There's always something happening. That sounds wonderful, I said, and meant it. I moved in on a Tuesday. My new apartment was on the 3rd floor with a view of the gardens. It was smaller than my old house, obviously, but it was mine. More importantly, it was filled with people who actually wanted to spend time with me. Within the first week, I joined the book club and met Helen, a retired librarian with a wicked sense of humor. At my first painting class, I sat next to Dorothy, a former art teacher who'd lived in 7 different countries. We had coffee together the next day and talked for 3 hours. For the first time in 6 years, I didn't feel lonely. The closing on the house was scheduled for exactly 30 days after I'd accepted the offer. I'd been in my new apartment for almost 2 weeks when my phone rang. It was Lauren. Hey, Mom, she said, her voice cheerful. I know it's been a while, but the boys have a break from soccer next weekend, and I thought we might come visit. Maybe Sunday lunch? My heart was pounding. That's sweet of you to offer, Lauren, but I'm actually busy next Sunday. Oh, she sounded surprised. I never used to be busy. Okay, what about Saturday then? I have plans Saturday too. There's a day trip to a museum that I've signed up for. A day trip? With who? Some friends. Friends? She said it like the concept was foreign. What friends? New friends I've made. There was a long pause. Well, okay. What about the Sunday after that? I'll have to check my calendar and get back to you. Another pause, longer this time. Mom, is everything okay? You sound different. Everything's fine, Lauren. I'm just following your advice, building my own life. We hung up shortly after. I could tell she was confused, but I didn't elaborate. 3 days later, the moving truck arrived at the old house to empty out the last of the contents for the new owners. This was the day before closing. My phone rang at 2 p.m. It was Stephanie, and she was nearly hysterical. Mom, what the hell is going on? I just drove by the house and there are movers there. There's a truck. They're emptying everything. I took a sip of my tea, sitting in the community room with Helen and Dorothy. We'd been discussing the book we'd just finished. Yes, the new owners are moving in tomorrow. New owners? What are you talking about? I sold the house, Stephanie. The silence on the other end was deafening. Then, almost in a whisper, You sold it? Yes. When? Why didn't you tell us? I sold it about a month ago, and I didn't tell you because my life and my decisions aren't your concern. Those were your words, weren't they? That you have real lives and can't always put me first?